NBC contributor. Lynn is a columnist and Washington bureau chief for the Chicago Sun-Times. Good to see both of you. So, hi. The Daily Beast is reporting that Team Trump believes that this prolonged stalemate is going to fracture voters along traditional partisan lines and that the ultimate outcome will be a debate that's waged largely on the president's terms, that he's going to set the tone here. I mean, increasingly, they see an upside in forcing likely incoming Speaker Nancy Pelosi to have to spend the first couple of days, if not the first couple of weeks, Lynn, of the next Congress, engaged in an argument over a border wall rather than her preferred agenda. Might they have a point?
Well, they might have a point, but it's a point that may not. It's a point that may not have much. It might not be a distinction with a difference in a few days from now. The Democrats know they have plenty of warning that the rollout they might have had of their multi-point agenda to pursue won't be the top of the list. But Chris, politically, if Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and other Democrats are just saying we are here to bargain, we'll bargain on this and that, we'll add more border security. We could defer talk about the wall. We could fund a little bit of this fence here. We don't have to do $5 billion all at once. We could fix what we have. There's a lot of ways you could slice it, and the Democrats could say with reason, what do we get in return?
Well, I guess there's that part of it. The other part of it is that the American people, and we saw that there was this Reuters Ipsos poll released yesterday that shows that President Trump is getting the blame, although, 33% congressional Democrats, that may be the president's base, who are blaming, another 7% for Republicans here. But, I mean, honestly, who's really paid a price in the past, Kimberly, for any of these shutdowns? They happen over and over and over again, and then it sort of just becomes like a lot of other things right now, which is it's just part of the way things are, and it's factored into how people think about government, which isn't very good.
It isn't. And that, frankly, is one thing that Republicans have said to me when I've asked them, aren't you afraid of taking a hit over this shutdown? And they say, you know what, in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, everybody will have forgotten about it anyway. So it's really not that big of a risk. And the president seems to think that it's worth it to make this message, which is entirely to his base over this wall. This has actually very little to do with Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer. This is Donald Trump, who wants to have a fight right now where he is demanding a wall that he promised on the campaign trail, even though he promised that it would be paid for by Mexico. He also knows that this is probably short-lived because as soon as Nancy Pelosi takes the gavel in January, she is going to quickly pass one of those bills that you just talked about before that Michael laid out and put it on President Trump's desk and call his bluff. And then it will become exceedingly difficult for him to blame Democrats, and Democrats will have a much better ability to say, look, we've taken care of the budget. We're ready to reopen the government and push forward with our agenda. And Trump will have to find probably something else to obfuscate and to change the subject.
One of the things that fascinates me about this, Lynn, is that they're still going after Nancy Pelosi. I mean, as if the midterms didn't happen and we didn't see a blue wave and we didn't see all sorts of things that will tell you that the attacks against Nancy Pelosi did not help Republicans in individual districts. Let me just show you what the incoming or the acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, had to say about this morning.
This all comes down to Mrs. Pelosi's speakership. I think left to his own devices, that Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats probably would cut a deal, but they're protecting Mrs. Pelosi. She does not have the votes, and if she cuts a deal with the president of any sort before her election on January 3rd, she's at risk of losing her speakerships.
Is she at risk of losing her speakership, Lynn?
No, actually, dear Mick Mulvaney, I don't know what you are talking about because she has the votes locked in. There's nothing substantial that's going to happen before January 3rd. He talks of it as if it's a date in the distant future. It's a few days away from now. We know because we just went through this search in the last few weeks, there is no alternative to Nancy Pelosi. So she's not protecting her leadership. She's not fighting for it. She has it. We know it. She is moving forward as the leader. That is just an argument that has no weight. If that's the best they could come up with in making this about not just her to demonize her, but that somehow she's on shaky ground on this leadership, it's just not true. What I would just say back to the Republicans, you know that the Democrats did come around about her because they had no one else. So that's ridiculous. And in another way, when you ask, by the way, some consequences here, there are federal workers and contractors in states that Trump needs.